The news day continues here on One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. Transportation company Valyacar Transit denies cancellation of trips in northern Negros. Now, this comes after reports on social media surfaced that trips were canceled to prevent supporters from attending Vice President Leni Robredo's grand rally in Bacolod. Valyacar Transit explained that diverting bus trips and leaving other routes behind is against government policy. Now, the company also said that there is no reason for them to cancel trips now that travel restrictions have eased. Meanwhile, Senatorial candidate Dr. Mingita Padilla believes that the health department should be reinvented for the better normal. In an interview with 1PH sa Totoo Lang, Dr. Padilla highlights the problem in the country's healthcare system, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Padilla also said she will try to fix the system within PhilHealth when faced or which is faced with several corruption controversies.
Aside from there is some corruption, I have to admit, there is also a problem with the systems inside that I know I can fix or I can suggest ways to fix it. So knowing all of this, no, ito pa lang, this is only some of it, mas marami pa.
Yeah.
Just knowing all of this, I want to try.
Dr. Padilla vows to probe the implementation of the Universal Health Care Act if she wins a Senate seat in the upcoming polls. She notes that the measure may not have been implemented well as it was not felt by beneficiaries even during the COVID-19 surge.
Kung pagpalarin po ako, no, at makapasok ako sa Senado, being a medical doctor, hihingin ko sana yung Committee on Health. Okay? Tapos, I will immediately call or convene yung tinatawag na oversight, bicameral oversight committee para repasuhin or investigate yung implementation ng Universal Healthcare Act at yung PhilHealth. Unang-una ho yun, gagawin ko right away.
The Food and Drug Administration approves the use of COVID-19 antiviral pill Paxlovid in the country. Mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez with the details.
The Philippines now has 2 antiviral pills against COVID-19. The Food and Drug Administration has approved for emergency use Pfizer's Paxlovid. Paxlovid was the first COVID-19 oral drug approved by the US FDA because it proved almost 90% effective in preventing hospitalization and death. The other oral COVID drug is molnupiravir, for which there are now at least 7 brands in the market.
Meron pong nadagdag na isang molnupiravir na gamot. Ito po yung galing ng Bangladesh, molnupiravir po ang pangalan.
The new drugs couldn't have come sooner. The World Health Organization has raised the alarm over a mutation of 2 COVID-19 variants. It's called Deltacron, a combination of the Delta and Omicron variants, and it's been found to be spreading rapidly in Europe. Still, infectious disease experts believe high vaccination rates should prevent another deadly surge.
I would surmise mas marami dito ang Omicron over that of the Delta. But I doubt it will cause severe infection. Marami na rin nabakunahan. So I think humihina na rin talaga ang severity nitong virus na to.
The IATF so far has inoculated some 64.2 million Filipinos, including more than 10 million who have gotten their booster shots. Mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez, We Are One News.
Experts from the World Health Organization have begun discussing how and when to call on the end of the global COVID-19 crisis. The details in this Bloomberg video.
Is this actually happening, Drew? And is the pandemic really near an end?
You know, it's one of these things where for the pandemic to be at an end, that's really going to be determined by human behavior and the virus. But one of the things that happened very early on, I remember it well, was January 30th, 2020, and the WHO declared COVID-19 to be a public health emergency of international concern. And that was a real symbolic moment because it set off all of these actions, precautions, the race to kind of fight the virus on an international level that have since then really become the norm. I mean, we have a global vaccine distribution program. Countries have really figured out how they want to approach public health restrictions. And something that's been an emergency now for 2+ years has really, kind of been the way of being. And so now they're starting to talk about, okay, what are the steps and what are the progress that we need to see to rescind that emergency declaration? They say they're not there yet. They're still figuring out what that off-ramp looks like, but it is a meaningful sign that they are beginning to have this conversation.
Well, and while cases have fallen in many places, we're seeing right now deaths spiking in Hong Kong. China just reported more than 1,000 new daily cases for the first time in 2 years. Are we at a point where this is starting to get worse again?
I think one of the truisms of this pandemic has been that, it did not start everywhere all at once in the same way, and it's not going to end all at once everywhere in the same way. We do see places like China and Hong Kong, which have used different vaccines, which may have different levels of efficacy. Hong Kong in particular, they've had issues vaccinating some of their most elderly, vulnerable populations. And so just because the pandemic feels like it's over, here in some part of the United States doesn't mean it's over everywhere else. This thing will stutter along for quite a while, I would expect. We will not be done with this. We won't be done with COVID. COVID won't go away. It will just recede a little bit more into the background sometimes and come back to the foreground at other times.
Quickly, what would this emergency declaration actually mean in practice?
More than anything, these emergency declarations are kind of symbolic measures saying, hey, we need to do something about this and trying to step up international coordination. I think it would be an acknowledgement that a lot of those structures are in place, things are working in some cases as they should be, and that the WHO, does have other things that it needs to focus on.
BTS held its first live concert in Seoul, South Korea after almost 3 years amid the pandemic. MJ Marfori with a story.
Back in home soil, global sensation BTS made a triumphant return to the concert scene in Seoul via permission to dance on stage Seoul. This is the first time they performed in South Korea after almost 3 years. Fans got their purple on the first of the 3-day concert at the Olympic Stadium.
If I can exaggerate, today is the best and most anticipated day of my life. It's a day that I can relive for another 3 years by watching today's concert.
15,000 fans were present in the venue. They all had to wear masks and hold back from the cheering and singing along due to COVID protocols. Despite the restrictions in place, the boy group easily sold out their tickets. They performed hit songs DNA, Dynamite, Butter, and Permission to Dance.
We used to film our performances, just putting the camera in front of empty seats. But as armies are here standing in front of us, it is so touching, and I'm so excited.
For News 5, MJ Marfori, we are One News.
And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later again at 12 noon as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Riza Diaz. We are One News.